Hi everyone, welcome to another Tea Time chat with me, Mark Tillison. I'm joined by Antony Potts. Today we are talking all about Google Analytics, and there's so much crammed into the schedule today that I'm going to have to refer to a sheet and look away from the camera, so I apologise. But we're talking generally about analytics and why you'd be nuts not to use it. We're talking about AdWords goals, analytics goals, analytics funnels, different views, a whole heap of other stuff to help you get more from analytics and understand what's happening on your website and why you're leaking traffic and sales and leads and all that kind of stuff. So without further ado, let's just dive into that, Antony. I should say, if you enjoy this, folks, just give us a thumbs up. Do mention things in the comments. We'll try and address them before, sort of during the show, or afterwards if we see those later. But we'll do our best to answer those for you anyway. And we've got a few questions at the end from the audience that we've already been asked, so we'll be addressing those right at the end, putting Antony right on the spot. So, Antony, have you got your cup of tea?
I have.
And me, I've got mine. Plain white. It's like plain white teas, but a mug style. So cool. So analytics qualified. What does that mean? What did you have to do to earn this enormous respect?
I had to do a multi-choice test a couple of weeks ago. It was fairly difficult, but I've done worse.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's dive in then. So I'm sure lots of people watching know what Google Analytics is, and I'm sure there are lots of people watching that don't know what Google Analytics is and what it does for you and why you'd be a bit mad not to use it. So let's just a couple of minutes very quickly answer that one.
So what was the answer?
What is Google Analytics and why would you be nuts not to use it on your website?
Google Analytics is a way of measuring traffic to your website. You get data on how many visitors, where they've come from, what technology they were using, how they acted when they came to the site, how many pages they went to, how long they stayed on pages. Lots of stuff, really. Everything you'd want to know to make your website work better. You'd be nuts not to have it, because you can see the sorts of people that are coming to your site, the sorts of ones that are doing the behaviours you want, what you could do to improve their user experience, to make them stay, and what you can do to make more of them come.
Okay, so things like exit pages is the thing that I like to look at. Is where are people leaving from? And if you like a funnel, someone coming into the site and then navigating through and leaving, or coming and then leaving straight away. If you think of a big funnel, where am I leaking? Where am I leaking traffic? Yeah. And maybe we'll come on to funnels in an analytic sense in a bit and explain how they work.
I think it's essential for your whatever methods you're using to drive traffic to your website. You can find out additional ways to get more of those people, the people that are doing the things you want on your website. Okay.
And we can break those down. If people are coming from Twitter or coming from Google Organic or coming from AdWords or wherever it might be, then we can track what those different groups of sources, what the sources do, how they behave, how many people bounce, and there's a whole other blog post on that. We'll put a link in. But what the bounce rate is for those different sources, what the bounce rate is for specific pages, that kind of thing. So it's really understanding how people are behaving and how you can get more from those different sources, and measure whether you're improving or getting worse as well, which is an important thing, obviously. And we should also say, for those that don't know, that Google Analytics is free.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Google Analytics Premium.
Yeah. Okay. But all this stuff we're going to talk about today, you can do for free with Google Analytics, and it's a fairly simple process of putting a code on your website on every page, and that's how you get analytics installed. And then out of the box, it does a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today, and some of them you need to configure. So let's go on to question 2, which is I think it's got more and more complicated over the last few years, like AdWords has, and there are a whole bunch of settings. So which settings should I be enabling in analytics once I've got this code added to my website?
It very much depends on your website and what you want to do with it. the default settings always need to be looked at, but I think most people want the display advertising features set up so that you can do remarketing. You can look at the additional reports for demographics and interest categories. They need to be turned on. If you've got an e-commerce site, then the e-commerce settings should be sort of set up. Some of the reports for that are excellent. There's things to turn on and off if you've got site search to enable people searching, to be able to view people searching on your website properly. It really depends on what you're doing.
Okay, so let's just back up just a little bit there. You mentioned about remarketing and display features and things, and we should explain that there's obviously a very close relationship between Google Analytics and Google AdWords, and a whole heap of the things we did a show a little while ago, and I'll put a link in the description to that show. But we did a tea time show about advanced remarketing techniques before, but some of the remarketing features, rather than being in AdWords, it's done through analytics now. And then the audiences things you mentioned, that when you switch that feature on, that will tell you, that will break down, if it has the data, it will tell you things like the age groups, the gender, things like that on the website. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you've got age, gender, parental status,
Okay.
things like that. There's a few things on there.
Okay, and so can I see how a particular age group that are men behave on the website rather than as compared to women of the same age group, for example?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess that might be more important if you're, I mean, not for us, but for an e-commerce store that's targeting women, you're probably more interested in how women behave on the website than men, instead of people who are going to buy your products. So.
I personally find one of the most interesting things is people will look at their website and say that 75% of the people that convert on my website are men. So I'm going to target my advertising at men. But when you actually look at the conversion rates, the women convert better. So really, you should be aiming at women because they convert better. It's just the way you're marketing at the moment is marketing to men.
So you heard it here first, folks. Stop wasting money on men. Okay. Okay, so that's really neat then. So certainly, if you're doing Google AdWords campaigns, or any other sort of paid marketing, or any marketing that costs you any money at all, then you really want to understand how women versus men, or older people versus younger people, depending on who your target audience is, or maybe your audience is everybody, and you monitor how people behave, and then you can tailor and tweak your content based on how each of those age groups perform, I guess, or each of those genders, or whatever, or whether they're parents or not, or what have you. No, okay, so that's really cool. And then you mentioned, what was the other one you mentioned there? Oh, e-commerce, which is just a huge area of analytics that we'll do another show on another day, very specifically on the e-commerce stuff, because that does tell you, specific product level, that will link to sales values, how many of each product you've sold, all that kind of stuff is all hooked in together. So that'll be another show for another day. So make sure you subscribe for that one, and we'll cover that another time. But if you do have questions about e-commerce specifically, then again, just mention them in the comments, and we'll try and cover those in that show for you. Not a problem at all. Were there any? Did I miss any? E-commerce, display features.
The only one I mentioned was site search.
Site search. So that will tell you, if you've got a search box, maybe a WordPress site or e-commerce store or whatever, what people are actually searching for within your website.
Yes.
Is that what that does? Okay. And then obviously you can measure that data as well. Okay. So the next one is analytics goals. What are analytics goals?
Analytics goal is a way of tagging people who've done something on your website that's of value to you, whether it be someone buying a product, whether it be downloading a newsletter, sending in a contact form, inquiry form. So you can measure the traffic that's coming in and what they're doing for you. You can do that anyway without setting goals. The reason to set goals, it makes it easy. You can see it in your in your audience reports, what your audience is doing quite easily. But more importantly, the multi-channel funnels. You need to have goals set for those to work, so that it's the only way you can see how your different marketing streams are working together.
Okay, so it's basically what the purpose, but you can have multiple goals as well. We should point that out. So, what's the point of someone being on this website? What do you want them to do, and are they doing it? And that's what your goal is. So it could be, I've registered for your weekly tips on digital marketing, or I've registered for your guide for Google Plus that we have, and a guide for Google AdWords that you can have for free, and we can set each of those as a goal. But that then means we can kind of start with that end goal and work backwards and say, well, okay, how many people opted in for the Google Plus guide, and which traffic source did they come from? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. But I can also, if I really want to get deep into that data, I can say how many women and how many men. I can analyze that by that goal. But if I don't define the goal, if it's just how many people hit this page, just normal kind of analytic stuff, then I can't look at that in that way. It's got to be set as a goal.
Yep.
Is that right? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So that's pretty awesome. And then you could look at things like entry pages, how many pages the average female or male looked at, or the average age groups or whatever. How many pages? What's the bounce rate? And those sorts of things as well.
You can set a goal as how long people have been on the page, how many pages they've looked at. There's lots of different things you can do.
Okay.
It's really down to what you want to record. What's the valuable thing on your website? If you've just got articles, you want to know how many articles people have read, then obviously time on site and number of pages is most important. But
yeah. Okay, so we've got a whole bunch of metrics to measure: time on site, number of pages viewed, how many visits we got from everybody or by particular traffic source. Yeah. We've got there's things like social actions in there, so how many people shared things. We've got goals about the people doing the things that we wanted them to do. If we've got e-commerce set up, e-commerce tracking set up, then how much did people spend? How many purchases were there? Which products? We've got all of those things, and then we can segment that data by all of those demographic things that you mentioned, like age, gender, those sorts of things, and we can segment by traffic source as well. So we can see how many people came, how many women in this age group came from Twitter, that came through the website, that registered for the Twitter guide that we've got. Yeah. So that's pretty powerful stuff. Good.
Just going back to something you mentioned, some of those things that you want to track as a goal need to be set up manually. I think. How
do you mean manually?
You can set an event on because your analytics is only tracking anything on your website. So if you did something that took them off your website. So if you wanted to record someone who'd clicked your like us on Facebook button, when you click that, it takes you off the site to Facebook. To the Facebook page. So you're no longer being tracked on analytics. So you can track, you can code an event on the button so that you record that button being pressed. But that needs to be done by a developer. It's not something that's built in with analytics.
Don't try this at home, kids.
Yes.
Phone your friendly developer.
Yeah.
Get them to do it. Okay. Yeah, I've seen that. It's pretty fiddly doing that. I don't know when we've tried to do that before. It's kind of we're not developers. We're marketers. So that's kind of very much a speak to a coder who understands all that fiddly text. get them to do it. But they work quite well. And the other event actually, and we do this for quite a number of clients, is the call tracking event. So that will actually track phone calls. So if you want to measure, again, all those different sources, email marketing, by the way, is one thing we haven't mentioned, but as long as you've put the tags on properly and everything, you can track your email newsletters, your autoresponders you might be sending out, all that kind of stuff. And obviously that's a different traffic source, a different medium, etc. But how many times did the phone ring? And with call tracking, again, I'll put a link in the description, but there's a blog post about that. Pretty easy to set up. It'll cost you a little bit of money each month, but it means every pound you're spending, you can measure much more effectively what the outcomes are. So it's not just about traffic and bounce rates and everything else, or filling a contact form or registering or buying something. It's if you're an accountant or a plumber or something like that, how many times did your phone ring? Because that's what you're really interested in. So call tracking for me, for those sorts of businesses, you're just crazy not to use it.
Exactly. For something that if you're a business where you're getting maybe 10, 20 calls a day, it's going to cost you less than £100 a month, and you can save that on wasted budget on AdWords easily.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had some people that are spending thousands and haven't spent this kind of £100 a month, and with the greatest will in the world, it's working, everything's working, and this is producing something, but in there somewhere there's some stuff that's wasting, and if you can't measure it, how do you cut that out? So anyway, but yeah, call tracking, absolutely. So that's Google Analytics goals, and leading on from goals, you mentioned a little bit there about funnels and multi-channel funnels. So let's just start with funnels first. What's the Google Analytics funnel?
When you set up your analytics goals, you've got the option to add a funnel. The funnel is a list of sort of points on the way to the goal. As a funnel to see how people are behaving in that funnel. From as simple as if you've got a contact us page, then you put in the contact us page as the sort of precursor to someone actually filling out the form. Then you get a percentage of how many people going to the contact us page are actually filling it out.
So think of this as like a breadcrumb trail, Hansel and Gretel style.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is a very short one. So this is how many people viewed the contact page, how many people then made it to the thank you page. So we've got a two-stage funnel there.
Yeah.
Okay, but it could be an e-commerce store, which is a bit more complicated. How might that look?
Yeah. Well, that's sort of what you tend to do with e-commerce is track everything from basket to sales confirmation page that you can, to try and establish where people are dropping out. And as we've sort of discovered in the past, you can sort of find out that the reason a company's not making as many sales as they could is because people are suddenly finding there's a £10-20 delivery charge.
Yes. Okay. So I think we've done other shows, and certainly I've ranted about this in blog posts. But hiding delivery charges in the shopping cart, e-commerce stores just don't do it. Honestly, it really, really annoys everyone. Yeah. And it's one of the number one reasons that it will be costing you sales. But yeah, certainly, you can set that funnel. So what would you do there? You'd have the first step of your funnel being the shopping cart. The next step in your funnel would be the next page, which might say something like put your delivery address in.
Yeah.
The next page, depending on how your cart is set up, the next stage might be now put in your billing details, and the next stage might be the confirmation, and the stage after that is you've paid, thank you for your order. So you've got, I don't know how many that was, I wasn't counting, but five steps, and then we can say, well, of the we lost 23% of people from step 1 to step 2, and of those we then lost another 30% at stage 3. And then we've got 70% of people that got to stage 4 are leaving when suddenly there's a delivery charge or something like that, or whatever it might be. So yeah, you can see very much where you're leaking sales. So you configure those depending on if you're an e-commerce store or what have you, or if, I don't know, you've got a landing page that guides someone to I don't know, maybe you got a landing page or a blog post or something that takes people, there's a big button on there that says join us for tea time or whatever, and you can track them to the next page and then them filling in a box to the thank you page, so we can see those funnels all the way through. Okay, and then we can measure those over a period of time. Can you do one of the things I do quite a lot with analytics is the comparison of this month or last 30 days versus the 30 days before that? Can you compare funnels side by side like that as well?
I don't think so because it's a visual.
Okay, so you'd have to 30 days and then not next to it, but you'd have to do another report, different time frame or something.
I must admit I'd never, because it's a visual, I'd never considered to try it.
It just ends up a visual mess if you try and do too much. Okay, all right, fair enough. So that is Google Analytics funnels. We'll do some more detailed shows on these, and we've got another series we're planning, hopefully coming soon, where we'll be doing some more desktop sessions. So keep subscribed for that, but more on those later. So analytics funnels, and then analytics filters. So what's an analytics filter? Why would I use that?
An analytics filter is something you put in to either filter, basically to filter out traffic from what you're seeing. The main thing that people do is to filter out the IP addresses of themselves, the web developers, anyone that you're paying to work on your website and is coming to your website. You don't want to look at their behaviour on the site because they're not customers.
Yeah. So anyone that's not a customer.
Yeah.
That could skew that could skew those results and things, and just make them look worse than they are, and make analysing that data more difficult.
Yeah. So it's basically a way of, I think you can filter by IP address, domain name. There's a couple of other things I can't remember off the top of my head.
I've got a special guest just turning up over your shoulder.
Have we? There's another one there as well, hanging up on me.
Okay, sorry, you were saying.
So there's a number of things that you can filter out to try and get so that you're just looking at your potential customers and not.
Okay. The people that you, or the users, the visitors that you care about, and filter all the other stuff out.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. And do you have different filters, or do you literally go just filter that stuff out and I'll look at what's left? How does that work?
I was going to mention that in the next bit.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm skipping ahead. All right. Yeah. Fair enough. So why should you create different views?
Right.
I wonder what the answer to this is going to be. So why do you create different views in analytics? What's a view, and what would you use it for?
But as standard, you've just got the view, which is everything that's coming into your analytics. The sort of recommended way to do that is to keep that view, not touch it, leave it, so you've always got all of the data available. You should then create an everyday view, and you should add filters to sort of filter yourself out, filter out your web developers, so that you've got a better view of your customers. You should create a third view called maybe test or something like that. If you want to put in filters and you're not exactly sure if it's going to work, because there are lots of sort of complex things you can do with filters. Putting in sort of regex functions, things like that. You want to test it out on your test view. Make sure that it's having the effect you want, and then you can put it back on your master view.
Okay.
But one of the other things you can do is to create views. Just if you've got I don't know, if you've got a store and you've got stuff coming from eBay, you've got loads of traffic coming from eBay, you can set up a view with a filter on it for only from stuff coming from the domain name for eBay.
So referrer traffic.
Yeah, so
from a specific referrer.
If you really wanted to, you could set up a new view for every one of your referrers.
Okay.
But it would be a waste of time. You can see that data on your main view. But when you've got someone that's really big, sending traffic, and you're just interested in what's happening with those, you can just set up a view to look at that.
So if you're doing affiliate marketing or something like that, and there was a referrer link, that kind of stuff, that might be something you would do. What, just on the referrer stuff, one thing we didn't talk about, and maybe it's too detailed for this show and maybe a future one, but when we talk about segments, so you can segment data without. Why would you use? When would you use a segment, to segment the data and just say, okay, I want this source and this source and this source. They're all search traffic. How does search traffic behave versus how much does social traffic behave versus how does my email traffic behave? So when would you use a segment and when would you use a view or a filter rather? No, it was a view, wasn't it? When would you use one or the other? I mean, is there a difference? Is it personal preference?
I think it depends on the situation. So, in most cases, you're not going to bother with a new view just for a particular referrer. But if that referrer is half your traffic, and maybe 3/4 of your conversions, then maybe you want to a view just to look at that. With most stuff, you can just you can just put the segments onto your main view to say the difference between the behaviour of the traffic of people who convert and people who don't convert. It's one of my favourite sort of segments because you want to know why people convert.
So you can get more of them.
So if you can sort of pick out, well, here's the sort of demographics and interests of the people who convert, and here's those that don't, then that might help with your marketing strategy. If you're doing something like a AdWords display campaign, it's a no-brainer. You want to know the sort of people that come to your site and convert.
Okay, and certainly from as I said before, from a paid source, if there's an opportunity there if you know that, I don't know, a particular age group works better than others, or there's a particular age group where the bounce rate's really high and they never ever get through your goal through the funnel to the goals, then you can make that decision, as we've said a few times before, to kill or cure. I mean, don't go and kill them. That's probably a bit harsh, but kill the spend on that area. And just kind of go, well, look, women just don't like this product, and if we can just stop advertising to women on Google, or men, or whichever way around it is, then let's just stop spending money on them. Let's actually, if we can create a different page and present the product in a different way for men, and have an ad campaign that targets men, that takes them to that page, that motivates them in that way and pushes the right buttons for men to buy the product or inquire or whatever it is, and then have your other campaign working for women.
One of the other reasons you might want to use views rather than segments, if you've got lots of data, and you, from experience of one of our clients before, with sort of hundreds of thousands of hits a day, if you put in a segment, it might take 2 minutes to upload and update the data.
Oh, just to query the data because there's so much of it. Yeah, okay.
So if you were to do that as a view instead, the filters and the views are happening at sort of source level, so you're only getting that data coming through. So rather than waiting 10 minutes for a million hits to come up, if you're just looking at one referrer, it might come up immediately. It might be easier to
so views can be better for bigger data sets, rather than using a segment, which is okay for smaller data sets. Okay, good tip. All right. So before we go on to audience questions, just make sure, guys, that you subscribe for future videos and do put your comments in there. next time out, which is in 2 weeks, I'm joined by Liam Ingram, who's a pay-per-click specialist. Liam's been doing some awesome stuff with Facebook custom audiences, so he's going to be sharing some of that stuff with us. So make sure you subscribe for those. So before we go, Anthony, let's just wrap up with a couple of questions. So Ian asked, how does Google Analytics measure time on page? So we should probably explain what that term means, and then, what can you tell us?
Time on page is how long people spend on a page.
Okay.
Which, if people are moving from page to page, is very easy. Google measures from the time they start the page to the time they start the next page. And if you took a minute to look at your page and click on, then your time on the page is a minute. Very simple. When you're not moving from that page to another one, it's the last page or it's the only page you're on, it's more difficult. But Google measures 6 different types of event on a page, and for single page and last pages, it sort of measures different events on there. It's something that's quite complex and difficult, and I think this would be best as something we'll sort of come back to in a future chat to go into in more depth. But I think it'd be you can sort of measure sort of how long someone's been on the page if they've done something on their page, even if they've scrolled down your page and maybe clicked on a like the page or like us on Facebook or something like that.
Okay. So the point there is, if I land on your website on a page and I stay there for half an hour, it doesn't matter how long I stay, by default, just out of the box, what analytics will do without any customization, any additional code, if I stay on your page for half an hour and I read everything, I sit and watch a YouTube video, whatever it is you've got embedded in your page or what have you, and then I click the back button, because I haven't completed any other event on the page, Google's going to count that as a bounce.
If you've just read stuff on the page, so if you've just had the page there in front of you, you've done nothing, you haven't pointed or clicked anything, then yeah.
There's no trackable events as far as your browser is concerned. I've loaded the page, I'm disconnected from that website now because it's local. You haven't requested anything else from that server. It can't track anything. Therefore, you've spent no time on the page if you click the back button.
But if you watch an embedded video, then you're performing an event on there, which Google will track.
Even if it auto plays?
No, not if it auto plays.
Okay, so if I've clicked the button to press play on this video, which eventually will end up embedded in a blog post, then Google knows I've done that, and there's the time on the page. And then if I pause the video later, then it's an action that it can track. But if it's a blog post, let's say, rather than a video, I knew I'd complicate it by using it. It's not a good example. So, okay, let's say it's a blog post with no moving video, okay, and you just scroll down the page and you read the lovely blog post, and then you click the back button and you leave. That, out of the box, that's going to be counted as a bounce. And there's a whole post about bounce rates and why high bounce rate isn't necessarily a bad thing, etc. And again, I'll put that in the link in the description later. Now, there's some new things you're just mentioning where you can code that someone scrolled to a particular point. You're going to need your friendly developer to probably do something like that for you. And that will probably improve your bounce rate stats, particularly if you're getting traffic from, like we get a lot of traffic through social media, and they land on a blog post and they read it and then they leave. I don't hate you for that. That's what you're there for. It's not a problem. But that at the moment counts as a bounce on our website, whereas although technically, according to what a bounce is, that's what it is, the person is doing what they're there to do. So it's not a bad thing when it's a bounce because they've read the blog post. So what we could do is implement, well, actually, they scrolled down, or there's an event that automatically runs once someone's been on the site for 10 seconds. And because that's an event that then happens, even though it's not a user kind of instigated event, that wouldn't count as a bounce, and will give analytics a better idea of the time on the page. Have I made that really complicated, or was that right?
I think it's right, but
Okay, so we'll do another show, maybe a blog post or two about how you can do that in the future. So make sure you subscribe for that. Okay, and then Suzanne, last question, and then we'll finish our tea. Suzanne says, how can I use Google Analytics to see which of my products or services are most popular? I'm not sure if this is a kind of services business with a range of services, one service per page. So maybe we'll handle that one first, and then the second one is let's assume it's an e-commerce store. So starting with I don't know, I'm an accountant and I've got 3 pages of different services, bookkeeping and management accounts or something and something else. Can Google Analytics tell me which are most popular?
Well, yeah, you can look at in the behaviour reports, you can look at individual pages or groups of pages, and you know, look at how many visitors you're getting, how they're behaving when they come to the website. Maybe you've got an inquiry form that's on every page, but they'll be able to tell you what page it was triggered from. You know, I'd say things like how long people stay on the site, whether they stay on the page, whether they bounce, whether they sort of click on to other things, or whether they click out of the site. I think is sort of behaviours that you're interested in to see how the different services perform.
Okay, so you could certainly see which of those pages was the most popular for any given period. So in the last 30 days of my 3 services pages, which one has the most visits, full stop? Which one of those has the most traffic that lands on each of those pages? You could certainly do that. And which, you know, compare the 3 and say how many people, what's the exit rate from each of those pages, and how many people complete my goal from each of those pages. So popular is a bit of a loose term, Suzanne, but so it depends what you mean by popular, but certainly how much traffic lands on those pages, how long do people spend on the site, how many people exit, how many people continue, how many people inquire. You could certainly do a comparison of page by page in the context of, I don't know, maybe you've got an AdWords campaign that's sending traffic to one, or maybe you organically rank better for one page than another. So the fact that it's more popular doesn't mean to say it's more popular in a marketing sense. It just means that it's better ranked and you've got more traffic going there. But that may not be because it's more popular. It's just because you've got a marketing campaign that works better. So yeah, you've got to think of the context of that question as well. So and what about e-commerce? Again, we'll do another show another day on e-commerce specifically, but can analytics tell me which of my products are most popular?
It's fairly easy now with sort of help from your developer to set up e-commerce tracking now, and there's some very good advanced reports now. You can track individual products, whether people are looking at them, whether put them in the basket and buying them, put them in the basket and not buying them. There's so much data there, and it's very simple to set up.
Okay. Excellent stuff. I think that's probably enough for today. So I'm going to go and finish my tea. But make sure you subscribe, folks. More videos come up soon. As I say, the next one is with Liam Ingram talking about Facebook custom audiences. So I'm looking forward to that one because I need to know more about that just because I'm nosy. But yeah, that's going to be a good show coming up in a couple of weeks. So subscribe to the channel and we'll see you then. Till then, enjoy your tea, guys. Thanks, Anthony.
Cheers.